From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris here on a Tuesday, and we have a good show on tap for you this morning. Something that's close to my heart, close to my wife's heart, and a lot of people here. If you love animals, okay, this is not a veterinarian show because I know we have Allison Fields on, and you call in and ask questions about your pets and the like. Today's story is more about saving, rescuing animals, okay, and a lot of that's done in Tennessee, and you've seen it in the stories we've done with the Animal Rescue Corps here, and then getting these animals into new homes with loving families to take care of them. And it's actually just, you know, you'd be surprised how many organizations have popped up that have dedicated themselves, volunteers, nonprofits, to do this. We're going to get into that this morning. Take your calls and questions if you'd like about how to go about, you know, maybe adopting a dog, okay? If you want to get involved, how you can volunteer. If you're looking for a specific type of dog, there's even that out there. It's not always necessarily the mutt, even though the mutts are sometimes the very best dogs there are, as you know. So we'll get the number up there in a moment, but there's a lot of people we could have had on in this show, and we kind of booked this together quickly now because we want to promote some events coming up. With us this morning is someone perfect to talk about it. It's with Compassion in Action Tennessee, Amy Haverstick. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you on.
It's good.
I'll tell you, there are so many groups. Now, first, Compassion in Action Tennessee has only been around really since August or September, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
I guess, talk about it. I could just read from the bio that's online, but give us a little background about what that group's all about.
Well, it's the three founding members are myself and Kim Rizak and Tammy Winters.
Okay.
And we've all been in the business for quite some time.
Business of what? Animal rescues?
Of animal rescue, fostering, adopting, you know, all of it.
Sure.
Doing large-scale rescues, small-scale rescues, addressing situations in our communities. And it's something we've been talking about for probably 2 or 3 years
of starting something like this,
of doing our own organization.
And what is it to do? Because I mean, as I talked about, there are a lot of other groups out there right now. New Leash on Life, Agape, and then there's, you know, the animal shelters. So do you try to coordinate with all of them and work with Animal Rescue Corps, the group that comes in and rescues animals?
Well, the three of us are also I guess, senior volunteers with Animal Rescue Corps.
Right.
So we generally always participate in their operations.
They were just back from one. They just finally wrapped up in Lebanon.
We did 4 in 2 weeks. And
4 in 2. How many animals?
Here for a month.
How many dogs?
220 total. The dogs, cats, and horses.
All brought in, and many of them were housed at a warehouse there in Lebanon while you were cleaning. You know, my wife Debbie, of course, you know, is involved with that and has gotten me involved. And it's great. Now those animals now have been sent out. And the process has started to try to find them homes, correct?
Right. What they do is once everybody's been vetted and, you know, settled in, started getting good food in their bellies and on the road to recovery, they work with their placement partners, and they have placement partners all across the U.S. Yeah. And they go through a process of placing groups of animals with those placement partners, whoever has space or, you know, can assist.
What's so interesting to me, too, that I learned, you know, as I paid more close attention to these rescues, is that a lot of the animals here end up in the Northeast. And here's some of the animals that Mary's pulled of some of the most recent rescue. I mean, they're just beautiful, beautiful dogs, and a lot of them were these were either from hoarders or sometimes puppy mills.
Correct. And the hoarding situations is somebody that's just gotten in way over their head. Maybe either they just truly are hoarding animals, or perhaps it's a rescue that has gotten in over their head and hasn't maybe treated it like a business. Right. Which is what you have to do. You can only do what you can do.
Yeah, and then you get overwhelmed sometimes.
Right, and then you end up with, you know, 125 animals at your house, and that's a problem. I don't think that's a good situation for anybody.
No, that's what some people, you know, ask. Okay, now are these always just like these money-grubbing puppy mill folks that, you know, are out there just, you know, keeping these animals in cages, breeding them and selling them? And there are some slime bags like that out there, and that's exactly what they are. Slime bags, all right? But then you also have some of these folks that are the hoarders that actually take in dogs when they see see them, and they mean well.
They mean
but a
well,
lot of them,
definitely.
frankly, have a screw loose, in my opinion, at some point here. Because when you're living at a home with 125 dogs, and you're bringing them in because you think you're helping, you're living in squalor too.
Exactly, and it's you know, they get in the mindset of save them all, and they've got to, you know, save any animal that's going to be killed at a high kill shelter or that needs a place to go, and then you ultimately end up with more animals than you or anyone could care for, and they're not getting veterinary care, they're not getting food, you're not getting the things that you need. All your money goes into doing, you know, what you can for the animals, and everybody suffers in the end.
Right. So usually when Animal Rescue Corps, which comes in, they're based out of Washington, D.C., and they go anywhere in the country, but they spend a lot of time here in Tennessee. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, they come in, and they'll say, when they show up at these hoarder situations, oftentimes the people running them kind of at some point when someone finally reaches out, welcomes them, correct?
Correct.
And says, gosh, you know what, I think I do need help. And they willingly do it. They don't have to get law enforcement involved.
That is true. And sometimes law enforcement is involved. But
you have to have a warrant then. If they're not allowing you on the property, you have to have probable cause that the animals are at risk.
there's a search warrant and a seizure warrant.
Yeah, you've been on some of those, right? Have you
I have. I've been on, I think, 17.
17, going in, and when you see it where there's animals, think about it, folks. You know, sometimes you've seen the ones where the cages were rusted shut.
Right, and Mashed Tater.
Mashed Tater's our dog.
Your
If you go to
dog.
my Facebook page, and you know, you'll see Mashed Tater's one of our rescue dogs. My wife, you know, fell in love with her. She has 3 legs. She's probably 10 or 11 years old, and
She is
no teeth and her tongue hanging out. But she's a great dog.
She can really get it on those 3 legs.
Yeah, she can move
is so
around
cute.
now, but she was you know, confined to just an isolated room.
Right, she came from Operation Midnight Run, which was in Manchester, Tennessee, in April.
As a hoarder, was it?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a lady. She worked at a vet's office.
Hard to
actually,
believe. Yeah.
And she would take in these animals, and you know, I don't know that we'll ever know for sure, but what we believe is that some of them were, you know, puppy mill throw-offs, or clients that came in were getting rid of the dog, or she picked them up from wherever. But she ended up with, I think we pulled 90-something dogs out of there.
Okay.
And the ammonia level was so high in the house that we almost couldn't go in before.
The fumes. Ammonia, meaning that, you know, the feces and everything, nothing's ever picked up, or cleaned, and it's just overwhelming. You can imagine what that does to the dogs.
I mean, these dogs had, you know, 4, 5, 6 inches of feces in their cages, and some of the cages were rusted shut. There was several dogs who were matted into the cage because they had not been moved.
So essentially, when you see something like that, I mean, you go in, and the main thing is to get the animals out of that environment. You take them to whatever location you have set up, and there's some wonderful folks that donate property to allow you to do that.
Yes, Novamet Technologies in Lebanon.
Give them credit.
Yes.
I mean, good for them. And the man who allows you to use that facility deserves just a medal. Yes. I mean, that's very nice of him.
And it's been a very good facility. And then the volunteers, you know, pour in and come in to help care for
and you
these
have to
dogs.
shave all these dogs, get their, you know, because at this point they're covered in fleas and whatever, their skin conditions because of what you described.
Right.
Just brutal. But it's so awesome to see the difference. And as we saw, we're going to be rolling some video throughout the show. But, you know, what they look like after the fact, they're just great. And how quickly.
It is crazy.
Now, when you go get them, and my wife has talked about this, you know, when you go in, essentially, and you first get these dogs, they're real cautious. Some of them are skittish.
Yes.
But then once they get the loving and caring, like you see here in this video here, they all warm up. They're all good-hearted. Look at that puppy there.
Yes. And
I remember that one.
It's amazing. I call it there's a shutdown period. It's a quietness in the first couple of days that almost every rescue has, where you walk in and it's just silent. They're sleeping. I call it sleeping the sleep of the dead.
Yeah.
Or sleeping the sleep of the rescued, because they've never had sleep like that. They've got a soft bed. They have food. They've got water. They're getting vet care, but
hopefully they're
learning that you can have 2 meals a day every day, and someone's going to come feed me, and it's an amazing thing. And then they start kind of coming out of their shells once they've rested and accepted, you know, that this is different.
Some
but
faster
it's good.
than others, right?
Yes, and then it's really amazing to watch that they just start seeking out attention from the volunteers and getting the care that they need. There's especially with Midnight Run, and then with this last puppy mill, there's a lot of, I call it medical grooming. You know, it's the grooming that has to be done, and they don't necessarily look like a fresh dog, but they
because they've been shaved or they've
Right.
got skin conditions.
and they've got skin conditions hidden by all that matting. We
Yeah.
had one dog from Midnight Run that had such a serious skin infection on her back that her skin was basically sloughing
Oh
off.
my gosh.
But she's doing great now. We get updates on them, and it's pretty.
See, that's what's heartening. All right, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines, 737-7587. If you've ever participated in one of these rescues, or if you have a question about it, the main reason I really want to do the show is highlight, and we'll talk about some of the other groups that are out there, and what's available for you, and why, if you really want a dog, go adopt one of these rescue dogs.
Right, you can find anything you're looking for.
Just about anything. A lot of people say, well, what if I have a specific type I want?
There's a rescue for that.
There usually are. Now, you may want a puppy, and maybe it's harder to find at times, but if you have, an open mind and there's options out there, go that route. And they're the best dog because they look at you like, after what they've been through. My wife, sometimes says, Tater will look at her and she'll like, you're a god. Because all of a sudden she feels so good, and it's great. So listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, we've got some pictures as well to show you. We've got some dogs actually right now that are looking for a new home.
Yes, we do.
The number 737-7587, how you can get involved, questions about all of this, and really why too. We'll get into what the issue is here in Tennessee. There are so many people here that care, but at the same time, Animal Rescue Corps seems to spend a lot of time here. So what's going on? We'll take a break and be back with more right after this.